So that's a three for three, that the word sanctions doesn't appear anywhere. In other words, the FBI and the Department of Justice lied. I can't resist them. I wanted to play a bunch of clips of Hawley, who was great, Josh Hawley and Mike Lee and others. I really did. And maybe I'll get to that tomorrow because there was so much good stuff. But I can't go without playing a clip of the absolutely hapless Mazie Hirono, radical far leftist senator from Hawaii who really can't complete a sentence without face planting herself completely. So here's Hirono spreading another myth again, because there's only one of two options here. Mazie Hirono is either really dumb, which is a possibility, or number two, again, is a gifted liar like Sally Yates. Here's her spreading the myth that when Mike Flynn was interviewed at the White House by the FBI as the National Security Advisor, the interview he was charged with lying to the FBI about, here's her spreading the myth again that Mike Flynn lied about sanctions. He was never asked about sanctions. I'll prove it, but Mazie Hirono, again, is either a liar or can't read. So check this out.
On January 26, 2017, you warned the White House that President Trump's National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, had lied and denying that he discussed U.S. sanctions with the Russian ambassador. And yes, he had a back channel conversations going on. Did General Flynn pose a national security risk to the United States?
That was certainly our concern, Senator, is that the Russians had leverage over General Flynn, and the Russians will use leverage whenever they can.
And somebody as close to the president as being the national security advisor, I would say that he posed a national security risk, and that is how I take your response.
Okay, that's interesting because the day before the meeting, Sally Yates is at the White House discussing Flynn. The day before, the FBI closed out or tried to close out the investigation against Flynn because he wasn't a national security risk. So again, Yates is a liar. Hirono is already a discredited liar. She's an embarrassment. She's really, really not bright. That's why I'm not. Again, I don't think she's lying. I think she's just really not bright and doesn't understand the case at all. She's a liar too, but she's not bright. Hirono's never been known as an intellectual beacon in the Senate, if you know what I mean. So she repeats the lie, to which Yates, of course, another discredited liar, nods her head in approval. Flynn lied about sanctions. So just to be clear, the Democrat narrative that stupid people in the media repeat because they can't do basic homework is that Mike Flynn was asked about a conversation he had with the Russian ambassador about the sanctions the Obama administration imposed. And when Mike Flynn was asked about it by the FBI at the White House, that he lied. Well, in order to lie about talking about sanctions, you'd have to be asked about talking about sanctions, right? I'm just okay. Thanks, Joe. Just checking. I needed that.
No, you're cool, dude. Yeah.
So we're going to lie about robbing a bank. In order to lie about robbing a bank, you have to be asked about robbing a bank, right? This is kind of how that works. Again, liberals, I know this is hard for you. That's why I'm speaking slowly. The conservatives get this. They got this months ago, if not years ago. But for the liberals, who can be quite dumb with your adamantium skulls, to lie about sanctions, you have to be asked about sanctions, right? So let's look at the charging document that Mueller and his witch hunters, the corruptocrats, Andy Weissman and others, the charging document they put together when they charged Flynn for lying about sanctions, they didn't ask. You'll notice they include sanctions. This is the charging document. It says immediately after Flynn's phone call with the transition team official, Flynn called the Russian ambassador and requested that Russia not escalate the situation and only respond to the U.S. sanctions in a reciprocal manner. So you're like, Dan, you lost. You lost. Hirono's telling the truth. Bob Mueller's team said that Mike Flynn lied about sanctions in their charging document. They did? Yeah, they did. Well, you would think then that the FBI's notes about their interview with Flynn, right? Their notes, which they put on a form called a 302, you would think their notes would actually include Mike Flynn's comments about sanctions, right? Now, ladies and gentlemen, to be clear, there were two executive orders by Obama. They were separate. One was expelling Russian diplomats, expulsions of Russian diplomats. The second was about sanctions. They were different. Bob Mueller, Sally Yates, and liar Mazie Hirono, not that bright, are claiming Flynn lied about the sanctions. They're even claiming it in charging documents. Well, let's look at the FBI's notes. Did they ever ask him about sanctions? Let's see. It says the interview agents asked Flynn if he recalled any conversation with Kislyak surrounding the expulsion of Russian diplomats. Okay, I don't. You see sanctions anywhere in there? Paula, you see it?
I'm looking.
Paula, Joe, do you see it? No, you don't, right? You don't
No.
see it. Okay, no, me either. Okay, clearly it's in part 2 of this, the FBI's notes, because they said they asked about sanctions. The expulsions were different, right? Let's go to part 2. By the way, big hat tip my friend Stephen McIntyre on Twitter, who's been follow him at Climate Audit. He's just fantastic on this. He's been all over this from day one. Huge hat tip. Let's go to 302 part 2. Let's look for sanctions here. The interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any conversation with Kislyak with the expulsions. Here we go, expulsions again. Talking about PNGs, persona non grata. Joe, you see sanctions anywhere? Joe, line by line, just go.
No, man.
Sanction. You know, it's Paula. Anything from you? No. Okay, no. So that's 0 for 2. Let's go to clearly on page 3, the word sanctions will definitely appear because he was charged with lying about sanctions that they must have asked him about because liar, low IQ Mazie Hirono and discredited hoaxer Sally Yates said so. And so did Mueller's hoaxer, Andy Weissman, who probably wrote that charging document. Let's go to 302, FBI interview 302, page 3. The interviewing agent asked Flynn if he recalled commentating against the incoming administration. This is about expulsions. The expulsions were coming. Sanctions. Paula, again, I'll take a survey here. Do you see sanctions? That's a no from Paula. So that's me. Dan's got to know. Paula's got to know. Yep. Joe, line by you see the word sanctions anywhere in there? Just checking.
Not a dang thing. Not a dang thing. Nope.
Now, was that a Meatloaf song? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Was that Meatloaf?
Yes, it was.
3 out of 3 in this case is really, but 3 out of 3 is really bad. Maybe Meatloaf should do a new version of that. So that's a 3 for 3 that the word sanctions doesn't appear anywhere. In other words, the FBI and the Department of Justice lied.
You just heard Dan Bongino.